Introduction. There are moments in ancient texts where the meaning is not hidden, but simply ignored. The first chapter of Mark is one of these moments. It does not need to prove anything, because the logic proves itself the moment you see the world that Jesus actually lived in. This chapter is not the beginning of a sky religion. It is the restoration of an older truth that existed thousands of years before the Gospels. It is the recovery of the ancient water cosmology that shaped Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the earliest Near Eastern civilizations. It reveals that Jesus was not calling people to obey a sky god, but to return to the river to reconnect with the great life that rises from the waters of creation. The great life is the source. The great life is water. The great life is spirit. Nothing controls the great life because the great life controls everything else. When the story begins with a river, it is not a symbol or a poetic setting. It is the original location of awakening. It is the place where ignorance dissolves and identity is restored. Section 1. The river as the beginning of awakening. Mark begins at the river. John is not in a temple or a city. He is in the wilderness where the river runs. This is the birthplace of the great life in the oldest cosmologies. Water is the womb of creation. It is the source of breath. It is the root of spirit. Every ancient culture believed this. The earliest Sumerians said life rose from the Abzu. The Egyptians said the soul rose from the primeval waters. The earliest Levantine traditions saw water as the doorway between the lower world and the upper world. The earliest followers of Jesus knew this long before theologians invented sky doctrines. John calls people into the river not to create a new religion, but to return them to the oldest truth on earth. He is saying stay wet. Stay awake. Stay connected to the great life. Once you see this, the entire chapter of Mark becomes clear. Section 2. The sky opens because the river commands it. Jesus steps into the river, and Mark says the sky opens. In the theological reading, this is a miracle. In the water cosmology, it is a simple truth. The river controls the sky. The waters create the atmosphere. The oceans produce the clouds. The cycle of evaporation and condensation produces the heavens above us. Scientifically, this is true. Spiritually, this has always been true. The sky opens because it is secondary. The sky yields to the greater power beneath it. The great life is in the water that existed long before the sky formed. Scientists today confirm that without oceans there is no atmosphere, no clouds, no rain, no breathable air. The sky is the child of the water. The river does not obey heaven. Heaven obeys the river. Jesus enters the river, and the sky must open because the sky came from the water to begin with. The great life moves upward, and the skies react. Section 3. The dry places and the test of ignorance. After being filled with the great life, Jesus is driven into the wilderness. The wilderness is the driest place in ancient symbolism. Dryness means ignorance. Dryness means separation. Dryness means distance from the great life. Jesus must endure 40 days to show that an awakened man can remain wet even in the driest world. The devil is not a creature. It is dryness. It is the pull of ignorance. It is the temptation to return to the sky religion and abandon the river. At the end of the 40 days, Jesus has not been defeated by ignorance. He remains full of the great life. He remains wet in a dry world. He becomes the wet teacher standing in a land ruled by dry teachers. Section 4. The man with the unclean spirit. When Jesus enters the synagogue, a man cries out with an unclean spirit. Unclean does not mean moral failure. Unclean means unwashed. It means dry. It means disconnected from the great life. The spirit inside him is ignorance. It is the influence of sky gods and temple doctrines that dried out his mind. The man screams at Jesus not because he fears holiness, but because ignorance fears dissolution. Ignorance knows that if a man enters the river, the lies lose their power. Jesus drives out the ignorance and restores the man to clarity. He is driving dryness out of a dry building. He is washing away the sky doctrines with the wet truth of the great life. Section 5. The healing of Simon's mother-in-law. Fever in ancient symbolic language is the burning of dryness. It is the fire of ignorance overtaking the body. Jesus lifts her up, and the fever leaves her instantly, because he reconnects her with the great life. She rises immediately because wetness restores strength. She is no longer ruled by the fire of ignorance. Section 6. The crowd seeking healing. The people come at sunset, not to be forgiven by a sky god, but to have their dryness washed away. They want healing from ignorance. The body suffers when the inner life dries out. When Jesus restores the great life to them, their bodies respond. Healing is the return of water to a thirsty soul. Section 7. The man with the skin disease. A skin disease in ancient symbolism is the visible sign of inner dryness. Jesus restores him not through ritual, but through the great life. He sends him to the priest not to sacrifice, but to show the priest that the river has more power than the temple. The healing comes from the water-based truth, not from sky-based religion. Section 8. The scientific and metaphysical unity of the great life. Modern science confirms what the ancients already knew. Life comes from water. Consciousness develops in water. Human beings are formed in the womb surrounded by water. Every cell in our body requires water. Our blood is water. Our tears are water. Our breath is shaped by water. The sky itself exists because water rises and forms the atmosphere. When scientists search for life on Mars, they search for water, because they know they are searching for the great life. Not physical life only, but the foundation of life itself. Water is the universal sign of vitality. Without water, there is no creation. Without water, there is no consciousness. Without water, there is no you. The ancients understood this spiritually. You came from water. You were born of water. The womb is the river of life. To insult the womb is to insult the place where spirit enters the world. The water in the womb creates the body and houses the breath. The great life acts through water to create human beings. Every human being carries the signature of the river in their birth. Section 9. The spiritual truth of the great life. There is no sky god. There is only the great life. There is only the water-based source that rises beneath creation. Every sky doctrine is a dry doctrine. Every sky teaching leads to dryness and fear. The great life leads to awakening and clarity. Ignorant thoughts are dry thoughts. These are the demons. They are sky thoughts. They are thoughts created by institutions to dry out the soul. The great life is spirit. The great life uses water to create life and awareness. If you remove the great life, you remove life from the planet. You remove awareness from the mind. You remove clarity from the heart. The great life is the only source. Everything else is illusion. Conclusion. You are born of water. You are sustained by water. You return to water. Ignorance dries you out. You must return to the river to wash the ignorance away. You must let the dryness die. You must stay wet. The entire first chapter of Mark becomes clear when you read it through the ancient cosmology. Nothing in the sky religion explains the text. Everything in the water religion explains it perfectly. Veritas lux mea.
Veritas lux mea. Truth is my light. Be wise as a serpent.